When it comes to leading change, this one question can cause miscommunication, conflict, and set up false expectations. It can prevent insights and limit information. So what question should you ask to avoid these pitfalls? Keep watching. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Dawn-Marie Turner, president of Turner Change Management and creator of the Readiness Mindset. The CEO was frustrated. She was frustrated with a manager who didn't appear to be following through on some very important changes within his department. And she wanted to know what she could do about it. I asked if the manager understood what she was asking him to do and why. And the CEO said, yes, she had asked him if he understood, and he had said yes. Now, if you've ever asked this question, do you understand? Does everybody understand? And had everyone or the other person shake their head, yes, I understand, or even say, yes, I understand, and then either not follow through or do something that seemed completely different from the information or the direction that you believed you had given, then you know this CEO's frustration. I certainly did. I've fallen into the trap of asking that or a similar question as I look to assess a person or a group's understanding of information, a new concept, or even a situation that we were working through. Write in the comment section what your experience has been with that question. Have you asked that question? On the surface, asking, do you understand? Or one of my go-tos was, does this make sense? Or even, do we all agree? Feels like and seems like a very logical question and appears to be helpful. The problem with this and similar questions is that they assume the receiver, the person receiving the information, is using the same filters to receive and make sense of the information as you, the person giving the information. So that when they respond, yes, it's easy for you to assume that your message has been received as intended and that you have a shared understanding. However, that is rarely the case. When you make the assumption and proceed without validating the other person or group's understanding, it's easy to become frustrated, label people as resistant to change, and think you need to push harder to get things done. All of which can begin a toxic cycle of change. You can prevent and break the cycle when you ask a different question. A question that recognizes that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. No two people will see the world exactly the same. Everyone brings their own experience, their beliefs, their context when receiving and interpreting information about their world. Everything we see, hear, and feel is perceived through our own filters. So a lack of follow-through, inaction, or taking different actions than expected may not mean that they didn't understand or that they're resistant to change. It's often an indicator of their understanding of that information based on their perception and interpretation of the information. I've done a previous video on the importance and power of perception in shaping our response to change. I'll post it in the show notes below. When I started teaching my change management courses, I would ask at the end of each section, do you understand? Does this make sense? And almost everyone would shake their head, yes. I felt really good. Great. I got my message out. They understood. Then one day during a break, I heard one of the participants explaining a concept to another participant who had been away when I had taught that concept. As I listened to him explain the concept, it was clear that his understanding was not what I had wanted the participants to take away. That's when, for me, the light went on, and I stopped asking that question. I realized that my question had satisfied me. I'd gotten the response, the yeses, but I didn't really know what they understood. What was their takeaway from what I said? That's when I came up with the alternative. So what are the alternatives to asking, do you understand? Does everybody understand? Or some variation of that question. The alternative is to ask an open question, a question that gives you insight into their perception, their understanding, how the context of their current situation is influencing the interpretation of the information that you're giving them. It also gives them the chance to reflect and process the information to create that shared understanding. For example, instead of asking, does everyone understand or do you understand? You could ask, what is your understanding? And create a small summary of whatever that information is. One of my favorites, and the one I use most often when I'm teaching or coaching with my clients, is, what is your takeaway? I like this question because it gives the participants the chance to reflect on our conversation, the information, and to put it into the context of what it means for them. It also helps create brand new insights, because sometimes my clients will take something that we've talked about in our sessions and their takeaway has connected other aspects that I didn't even think about or they didn't think about. So we created some brand new insights and context that help enable change for their organization. These open-ended questions enable you to create that shared understanding. They help you clarify and reframe if there is a misunderstanding or if the intent of your information wasn't received in the way it was intended. I will often work with a client and say, let me see if I understood what you said, and reframe what they said. And I sometimes get clients go, not quite. These open-ended questions also create the space for greater insight, collaboration, and allow you to create the conversations that you will need to enable healthy and sustainable change. That's it for now. I hope you found this video helpful. I'll see you soon. Bye.